Welcome back to the She Leads with Light podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Ashley, and today we have the beautiful Ella here. Ella, welcome. Welcome, welcome. I'm so excited that you're here, and we are both in the AFE experience. Is that right? Which is
Yeah,
awesome that we can come together. So why don't you tell the tribe, tell the community a little bit about you, and we're going to get rocking and rolling.
well, hello, beautiful souls. It's such a pleasure to be on this podcast. Thank you, Sarah, so much for it. So I'm ELLA SOPHIA. I actually do brand specialist and a mentor for the online space. I work specifically with mentors and coaches who are looking to turn their business into a legacy. So I really focus on internal embodiment of their brand as well as external presentation of what their brand is in the world. So it's very exciting, yeah, and really making sure women are honing into like their special gifts and their big vision and their big why, and really claiming it in this lifetime and not stepping away from it. So it's powerful.
I love that so much. And I just reading the energy, I can tell like how in alignment you are with that and like the transformation that you're having with clients. Let's kind of talk about that. Like this year is going to be a huge year. I can feel that in your energy. So tell me a little bit about the transformation that you're really seeing in your clients.
Really, I'm seeing them come out of their shells, really step into like who they are. I work with a array of clients, so between new coaches, old coaches, and so seasoned coaches are restarting. So those seasoned coaches are usually someone's been about 5 or 10 years, and they're like have a brand established, but they're like, there's a new part of me coming through. So with these clients, it's really amazing because it's a lot of them will come to me for like the visual appearances, and then I'm like, well, we've got to do the subconscious work. We've got to work on our nervous system to holding and stepping into the creation, because I usually call in women that have this big vision and they're so afraid to claim it. And that's usually the issue. They're so afraid to claim it and say like, this is all me. How am I going to present this? How does this integrate to everything else I have? Like, that's a big question I always get, is like, how do I integrate this into everything else I have? Like, I don't know how, I can't see how this is going to fit. Like, I received this download, and like, how am I going to make this fit into my brand? I'm like, we can make magic, babe, don't worry. So then we go through like the pillars, and there's a whole bunch of other techniques I take you through. We work together usually for 3 to 6 months together, and it's really, really juicy. So yeah, it's so amazing. The clients are really stepping out of their mind and into their heart, into the body, and they're relaxing their nervous system and allowing that vision to really come through, and then allowing that space. Because one of the things I have is like on a physical aspect is anchoring it down on the visual appeal, like having the layouts, we do the framework, everything on the business end. But then we also work on the allowance and the nervous system and the recalibration and actually accepting and receiving it, and getting the body saying like, no, like we can integrate there's space, we can do this, and really gain and calibrate. And then watching the newer coaches just like get emotionally on board and get okay with it, because I think a lot of them are just extremely terrified and just like really relaxing and getting on board and be like, you can do this, just stay steady, walk yourself through it, don't be afraid. I feel like with new coaches, they get a lot of external stimuli that's distracting them away from the path, because they're kind of getting pulled back and oscillating, and their nervous system wants to go back to the old, or just their experience, or their body wants to go back to the old. And it's really just allowing that. So it's really, really fun that way. Yeah, I have a array of clients right now. Like I have it from each kind of like bracket that we're looking at. I have an array of clients. So it's really interesting watching, and it's so beautiful, like talking about other clients I have in different spectrums. It's so beautiful seeing this like excitement, but this like, okay, like I don't know how this is gonna integrate, but I'm just gonna do it. For some of them, I have like clients like that, and it's really fun watching them, doing the brand shoots with them, getting their personal persona going. It's so much fun with those clients, and really working with the photographers and the stylists. So that's sexy and that's fun. That's a lot of fun too.
I love that you literally like light up like a Christmas tree when you're talking about it. Oh my gosh. And like, let's talk a little bit about that. Like, what do you see when someone comes to you and they're like, I know in my soul that this is the next expansion for me, but yet I don't know if I can hold the vision. And then you look at that and you're like, it's because your nervous system can't hold the vision. You're not anchored in that. So what are you really finding within your clients that like is triggering all of this like cortisol and everything within their nervous system of why it's kind of ping-ponging, why it's out of balance?
But generally, it's just probably like past life experiences. It's usually like trauma from different generations. I'm probably saying it so cocky because of the podcast I'm in and your topic and your audience. So
Yeah.
in other situations, I would just say that it's limiting beliefs inside in the body, in the physical body that's very deep and ancestral, right? So
Yep.
usually that's the case, what it is, and then it kind of portrays into like early childhood. There's two ways of usually really approaching it. You can approach it with early childhood trauma release systems and subconscious work, or you can actually look into like the ancestral healing. I don't believe in attaching onto stories though. It's not really my belief
Mhm.
system, so I try to not really to worry about the story itself. Focus on the emotion and the feeling and going through it. And then as you go through that emotion, not necessarily like there may be a story, but going past that story and be like, okay, but what does this mean? And going
Mhm.
past that story and holding on to like, this was the incident, this was it, which is important, but sometimes we glamorize that and we get really like, oh, okay. So really going past that and feeling into the emotional body and the release system and expressing that release in the
Yeah.
body is very, very important to me. So I do a couple of practices with my clients. I have about 4 or 5 different practices that we work together and doing. And this is probably the elementary step of getting them on board. The next step is creating an identity for them and
Mhm.
allowing that identity to become their end result, their future self, and working
Mhm.
with themselves, really envisioning and stepping. And yes, it could be visualization through manifestation, but this is a whole different experience and the intention of I really want them to start acting and behaving in real time in it, like every single day, showing up the way they're showing up online, the way that they're speaking about their business, the way that their visuals are, the way that they're wearing the clothes, embodying it, really doing that as well as they're doing the inner work, because they're going to have to do inner work. You can't do one or the other without the oscillation, and then that this integrity is going to cause chaos in one way or another. You have to balance it. So we have the inner work as well as reclaiming the stakes in external, and that creates an identity that you now have to live by and be accountable by because you've made it public. So that's one of my
Mhm.
aspects of like the branding. Also in the beginning stages of claiming the identity, we kind of put it out early. We kind of do start talking about it early. It's so you get that accountability and that integration towards that experience.
Mm. I love that.
So
It sounds like in your container, you really walk people through feeling and not putting things in boxes and this or that, or this experience was good or bad. I was having a conversation before we jumped on the call, and I was just like, someone was going through this story and explaining, like, this is the story, this is the thing. And I said, but this isn't the thing, this is just an experience. And I believe before we came down here that we kind of already set the vibrational tone, we set the
mm,
vibrational frequency already. And
mhm,
so if we could just actually not even feel into like, hey, this experience feels like frustration or anger or whatever, but instead of just feel the energies of the experience, what I'm finding even as I do that on my journey, it like just completely opens up and it relaxes my nervous system instead of just like, oh, I'm angry today. No, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Like you just put a label on the fact that like you're angry. Let's sit in the energy and let's roll with the stream of it and say, actually, when I'm feeling this in this moment, I can feel energies in my neck. I can feel energies in my third eye. I can feel this energy. And then pretty soon your body is like, oh, this is actually not that big of a deal. This is just energy. And I've just
mhm.
been afraid to feel energy my entire life as good or bad.
That
So,
is so juicy and that is so good. I love it. I love
yeah.
that you said that last line and added that to that. It's really, I think, we as humans, we cap our definition of what humanity is, where humanity is so much more than what we realize. And that's a different story for another day. But I would love to get on to it. Maybe I will get into it a little bit later. But what I wanted to go back and a caveat of what you said is with the feeling expression and the storytelling, stories are good to a certain extent. Like it gets our ego on board. It gives a reason for our ego. It gives a reason for our mind. But
Yeah.
sometimes it's not the real reason, like you said, it's not the end all, it's not the cause, the root cause. And we're not gonna go in like with a mental thought, like, oh, we're gonna dig into the root cause and get into it. Like it's not that aspect. When we're
Mhm.
feeling with our body, it's also asking these key questions. It's like, what is this telling me? What is this
Mhm.
telling me? You feel into the body, breathe into every part of your spots, and you're like, what is this telling me? And you allow it to speak to you through the body. And then maybe there you might have a flash or a thought running from the body up to the mind, not the mind going down into the body.
Mhm.
It really comes from the depths of your body, seeping up
Mhm.
into you and then through your mind. And this may
Mhm.
give you a glimpse or something like that. You're softened, you're in your divine flow, you're in your feminine essence. So it speaks to you softer and more inclusive this way.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's a little more aligned thought process.
Mhm.
It's not like our nervous system freaking out and our ego's like, right? So we allow space for that. That's why we practice meditation to ease our sympathetic nerves and allow our rest system to come in so the divine flow can speak to us through it. So one thing that I'm a big geek about, I love is IFS, so internal family systems, the concept of it. I like the concepts around modalities a lot. I love taking the concepts and playing with the energy of the concept and the language and what it presents into our reality and part systems and family constellations. So what my desired outcome is when we're doing these experiences together in like session or in our clients and in
Mhm.
public, whatever circumstance I present these things to people, specifically with my clients with identity work and branding and business, is we're also not just we're allowing our body to feel the energy, but we're not just trying to get like we're allowing it to speak to us, but we're also getting parts of us on board together. We are parts of certain things. We are parts of one lifetime, another. We are of all these different types. We're mothers, we're daughters, we're sisters, we're business owners, for example, that if we want to
Mhm.
go more spiritual, we are diversities of lineages made up of each other, right? We
Yeah.
have in our DNA, like if we were to do like those DNA tests, they would tell us, oh my God, so many different races inside us, right? So many
For sure.
different, like, yeah, right? So these parts, I believe at this moment, as we're ascending or alluding or developing as a human species, individual, these parts are trying to figure out the new now, the brand new. They're evolving as well, and they're trying to figure out the new directions and interactions you're going. And we need to get those parts all on board by speaking
Mhm.
to them, loving to them, and understanding them. And that's the frequency I feel that creates the nervous system on a really geeky spiritual way. This is
Yeah.
what creates that these different parts of DNAs from different lineages and different timelines or whatever the case we want to call it, these are the parts that are interacting with each other in our
Mhm.
body to like figure out like, am I gonna be left alone out behind? Like, are you taking me with me? Like, is there room for me? Like, help me as what's happening? And that internal conflict inside our body is what creates when we step into a big identity, such as our big legacy that we know it's happening because other parts are like, well, in 1854, I never made it there. So am I gonna make it this time? Like that DNA is gonna be yelling at you.
Oh, I
So
love this
I
conversation so much.
So this is kind of like the frequency what I'm kind of subscribing to. It's like lineage work. Like I do a lot of lineage and ancestral work.
Mhm.
And it comes through like I'm just gonna go there with you. It's like it
That's
comes
fine.
through my high priestess days. Like prior to doing this business work, I was traveling about 2 years to a whole bunch of different sacred sites and stuff across the world, and really being with these lands and the history and the like the
Mhm.
stories behind these areas. Like Glastonbury, I was in Espinar, like that's in Ibiza area. I was in the pyramids. I was in the tombs. I was in Machu Picchu. I was in like where was I? Sedona. I was in Mount
Mm.
Shasta, like all different places, right?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
sitting with the, I know it sounds so shamanism, but I was sitting with the land and speaking with the, watching that
Love that.
energy run through the body and seeing how our physical states change in different locations, different people, like
Mhm.
human design talks about like open and close and genetic codes and how these different body types really connect with us. And those even change the way the energy flows because of our centers and how our
Yeah.
centers interact or our gates or our lines. So
Mhm.
it can come line for you. And that changes your whole system and the way the energy runs through. It's the same with the land. The land has its own genetic code, has its own energy system that does the same thing. We're very much integrated with our environment.
Mhm.
So this is another thing that because our parts and we have this new identity is forming, we need to be mindful that we have to watch and see what states we're sitting in. So this is a more applicable thing in our real like day-to-day life. It's like I always ask my clients, like my older clients have been in the business longer, that have been more established, have a bigger brand, they understand this concept. But the newer
Right.
coaches, I really have to sit with new coaches and be like, you've got to be really mindful how you're plugging in your ears, what your environment is. Like it's not about drastically changing your environment, but interacting in different ways and
Mhm.
allowing more calibration into your environment so you can actually meet those energetic lines and those developments and the way energy flows through your body much more intensely and much more in your
Mhm.
benefit towards your original alignment and your original design. I am not a human design expert. I'm more about the subconscious work and getting the body to relax into
Yeah.
all the stuff we do. These are all important parts. Like, these are all important parts of what makes a whole. And that's what the thing is. I'm a systems person, I'm a part systems. I understand like this whole concept of having different
Mhm.
parts running through your body and just getting them all individually online and subconsciously on board to like who you're becoming.
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
I think that's where the nervous system is coming from. This really old genetic pool that just thinks they're going to be left alone, like left behind, and nobody's going to care about them. And we're really talking them
Mhm.
on and being like, nope, you're coming on the ride. You're with us. Don't worry. You're not going to be left alone. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So I think that this is a good segue into having people right now, the listeners just around the world, right, kind of tune in to maybe they haven't been doing this type of process and maybe they haven't been doing this type of work, but they're really ready to step out into a bigger way. And they feel what I call this crunch energy, where it's like the conflict isn't outside of you, the conflict's actually inside, right? And so what would be a powerful process? Like, what would you say for people to just, even right now, we could just do the work in 2 minutes of just tuning in to that part of you, right? Subconscious nervous system and be like, oh, you're okay.
definitely.
And being able
So
to channel that.
yeah, but definitely what I would say is it depends on the state that you're in the call or on the listening to the podcast in. So
Mhm.
hopefully you're relaxed. And if you're not, then like let's center our body, like get into our mind and kind of see why we're not centered. So like if you have a journal or notebook, go ahead and jot down why you're not centered. If you are centered, this is great. So
Mhm.
for those of you who are not centered, go through, pause this podcast, go write down what your state is and why you're not, because you want to jot that down and have that available as a record. Then come back on. And then for those of you who are ready, so we're going to take a really deep breath through our nose, into our stomach or into our womb. And then we're going to breathe out very slowly. So probably 2 times slower than what we breathe in, but we're still going to breathe in very steady. So it's good. And then we're going to count 1, 2, 3, hold. As I'm holding it, you're bringing it down into your womb. And then you breathe out. So you're going to watch and feel the air from your womb come up slowly up into your chest, your heart center, into your throat center, and breathe out through your nose, out into the environment. Okay. So then you may feel relaxed. You may feel a bit tension. That's okay. We're going to witness this and feel it. So I want you to allow yourself to feel a relaxation in your hands, your arms, your bodies, your cells. Just allow every little aspect of your skin and your body to relax. And now I want you to feel or just allow your body and the senses inside of it to either witness, sense, see, smell, hear, whichever way is your best receiver of this information, your grandest mission without logic. Feel it into your body, sense it into your being. Taking your left hand onto the side of your leg or anywhere on your legs and tapping with 1 or 2 fingers 3 times. And then a second finger the fourth. Allowing yourself just to witness. If you see thoughts, then just let them go, but don't focus on them. And then bringing yourself back into your body, into your heart space, beyond into your body. Now I want you to take witness of that thought and that big expansion energy, that biggest mission, that biggest timeline. Allow it to flow through your body, witness it, witness your body interacting with that and that experience. Whatever sensation is fine. I'm moving your right hand up to your shoulder and tapping again. 1, 2, 3. The second finger, 4th. Now relaxing your shoulders. Now opening your eyes slowly but wide awake. Allowing presence into your experience. And just feeling into that emotion. This is a very short, just an experiential of just attuning yourself into the concept. Some of you guys may have had a very nervous reaction, like, oh my gosh, what's happening? For sure, let us know, email us in, or however Sarah wants you, contact us or contact me on social media, let me know. Some of you may have had a really beautiful experience. It might have felt really good. And that tapping and anchoring is a security, letting your body and system know that this is okay what you're receiving. It's allowing you to know that there's an interaction between the energy and your physical being. So now we're connecting spirit and the physical body together. So there may be some emotional release right now. If there is emotional release, what I want you to do is take time to journal it in, write it down, because I want you to connect the mental body to your emotional experience for now. And then what you can do afterwards is, if you really are seeing parts and things that are showing up for yourself, what you do is you clasp your 2 hands together and press them together. You breathe in really deeply and say, I am present and I am safe. And you really focus on the heart space and allowing that heart space to really collect that energy for yourself. And then you allow it to expand. And then you say, thank you, parts. And thank you, being, for being here and carrying me through this big thought and vision. I grant access to the biggest vision into my experience with ease and grace. I respect all parts, all lineages, all pieces of my DNA. And I honor and I say yes to all of them. I ask all of these parts to come on board to this biggest timeline as they are respected and loved. I also ask any parts of me who do not feel safe to come on to know that they are loved and all are protected, not just by me, but by the greater expansion of me. Breathing in and breathing out. Now relaxing your system into that. And then now you can shake, you can shake your hands and stuff and know that that's true and you're okay for that. And really, if you guys want to take time, you can write that down in your journal and keep that with you. So if you decide to come back to this and do this and you see an overreaction, then speak that mantra into yourself, speak those words into yourself, knowing that this is a safe experience. This is a safe time. This is really good. This is really fun. And that literally no part of you will be left behind. It's all going with you.
What I felt during that process in the beginning, and I can't wait to hear, if anyone struggles with this, please reach out to Ella. She's the expert at this. Find her on Instagram. I'll put everything in the show notes so you can find her and add her. But what I was experiencing into that was this image and vision of me on stage and thousands of people outside. And as I was downloading that energy from my root chakra all the way up, I felt this contraction energy right here, right? And I just said, oh, hi, hello. I hear you. I see you. Yep, you're right here. And it was my body, basically, as I was channeling through, my body was like, but I don't know if we can do that. Can we do that? And then as we went along with the process, and we went to the last piece of the process, and you had all the parts kind of come on line and just witness and love and honor, I felt my body just going back here, like I was gonna like fall back behind my green screen, and all these parts just rushed forward and was like, okay, we're good. Like, okay. And I felt this like whoo, whoosh energy. So thank you for that. I'm excited for people to
Beautiful.
experience this, and
Yep.
I'm so glad that we connected today and had you on here. Is there any last words that your soul wants to share with the tribe and the community?
Um, know that I think like that spoke to itself. I'm really excited. I think it spoke for itself, and I'm really hoping that you guys utilize this tool and really fall in love with it, and really take these words of nuggets and this thought process and the way of thinking about how we do integration and how we do embodiment, because it's embodiment of the brand I do. So personal identity and then also business brand. So personal brand and business brand. And really think about it, this caveat that we are more than just one lifetime, one experience. But the story doesn't necessarily matter. Like we can go into stories all the time, but it's really about allowing each of those parts to become whole. You know, this is the whole thing, right? We all want to achieve altogether the biggest light and the biggest experience. And some of us carry a lot of information in our body. And these parts have lots of beautiful things to offer, and they just need to feel safe to offer these beautiful things.
Mhm.
Different DNA parts of the system, whatever the case is. And these are all important parts of that big lineage and that big legacy that we're carrying, and it's so powerful. So
Mhm.
it's amazing to have access to all of that and have a beautiful, harmonious table of energy available to us.
So good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for being here. And I will put her information into the show notes, and I will see you guys all in the next episode of She Leads with Light. Thank you so much for being here.